today that you've just hit the jackpot. If you can believe today, then you played the right number. If you can believe today, you've got the spiritual Powerball already in your pocket, but you've got to believe God. Our text in Hebrews 11:6 told us that without faith, it is impossible to please God. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is. Interesting that there's no object after the predicate. Because if he'd have put an object after the predicate, it would have limited your faith. But God wanted to leave it open-ended so you can put whatever you want to behind the predicate. You want to move the comma over and stick healer in there? He's Jehovah Rapha. You want to move the comma over and stick provider in there? Then he's Jehovah Jireh. You want to move the comma over and talk about sanctification? Then he's Jehovah Mikadesh. Whatever you need, tell somebody it'll fit. He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. But without faith, it's impossible to please God. Psalm 19, 1 and 2, we looked at it in MIT yesterday in the New Living Translation. It said, the heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies display his craftsmanship. Day after day, they, talking about the skies and the heavens, continue to speak. Night after night, they make him known. Here it is, God is saying that the sky that you can't even actually touch, he crafted it. In other words, he's saying the same sky that seems still to you speaks to him. And it obeys his commandment. I'm not going to keep reading, but if I kept reading, it would say that the sun comes out of his chamber like a bridegroom. And so, in other words, I'm trying to tell some of you that if God can keep a handle on the sky, the clouds, and your intangible atmospheres, then surely whatever you need in your life, God can perform it. If God can hold the sky, if God can grab the clouds and hold them in his hand, then you don't have a situation that God can't wrap his fingers around. Somebody ought to say he can handle it. God can handle whatever that you're going through, and I believe that this is the season that he's going to prove it. So we said, I'm almost to the punchline. He said, or we said, that this is the year of the Lord's redeemed. So that means that God is not just a repairer, but he's a rewarder. We've also said, I'm not going to go there, but according to Isaiah 34 and 8, that he was going to reward us for the controversy that we had to endure. Somebody say controversy. But I must warn you that here's where the message changes. Somebody say cause and effect. See, if you expect a harvest, you have to sow. If you expect the power of sonship, you have to receive him. To as many as received him, to them gave he power to be the sons of God. So if you're going to expect a reward, which he does promise, you're going to have to seek him a little differently than you sought after him up until now. Because the reward you need is so great, but it's got to be balanced with how you go after him. Because contrary to your opinion, you ain't pimping no more. Your pimp days are over. You've lost your pimp hand, and God is not your prostitute. You're not going to tell God to run and go get what you want to have in your life and don't expect to do some work yourself. Now, the gift is free, but don't you get it twisted. You don't have to work to get saved, but once you get saved, you ought to work. When I read Hebrews 11:6, I find this word seek. Everybody say seek. And I only find it one other time in the Greek translation throughout the Bible, and it's in Acts chapter 15, verses 16 and 17. I only find it translated this way one other time in Acts chapter 15, verses 16 and 17. Watch what it says. After this, I will return and build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might, everybody say seek, might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things. Now, what's interesting is in the book of Acts, because the book of Acts is a recital of Amos chapter 9, verses 11 and 12. But in this recital in the book of Acts, these people who seek are known as residue. See, that was weak, but that's okay. Because the people who have been rescued from some stuff ought to be seeking God like never before. I'm talking about rescued for real. I know some of y'all's nasty past, and you ought to be shouting about what God has done for you. Some stuff he has brought you out of. You ought to want to check in with God all the time. If it had not been for the Lord who was on your side with your nasty, crazy self, where would you be? We sit around here and act like whatever we do for God, God ought to be happy with it. That he ought to just be glad I know his name. And let me hurry up and catch the religious, because you ain't never got high or slept around. God kept you from it. Matter of fact, some of you stepped in it and he didn't let you go any deeper. So before you want to turn around and look at folk wondering what they did, you better thank God that he kept you from doing it. Because if you would have made one decision, if you would have got one more phone call, maybe didn't nobody want your tired looking self. But because God had his hand on you, you didn't slip like the rest of us. Some of y'all just ought to thank God you funny looking. Everybody ain't going to try to holler at you. You wouldn't be able to hold yourself back if everybody hollered at you. You mad because she got that shape. Don't be mad at her. You better be glad, because if you had it, you'd be stank. Just want to keep it real. Thankful. 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 But the point is, we ought to seek God. Now, here's the definition on the screen. The word seek comes from a Greek word, exateo. Now, this word exateo, it means to search out, to search after, to search heartily, to search through, and to search for. And the first thing that I want to tell you is that it means to investigate. So when Paul, when they were talking in the book of Acts,